Hello and welcome to Sanidhya Varta, the official podcast under which rhythm by the students of Vivekananda School of Journalism and Mass Communication. We do this podcast to bridge the gap between academia and the industry. In this special series, we are interacting with the alumni entrepreneurs who once walked these very corridors that we are walking today and are now making waves as industry entrepreneurs. Today, our guest is Miss Surbhi Allagh, the co-founder of Itch. Itch is a specialized firm that handles everything from the creative look of a brand to the data-driven strategy that makes any business grow. They have worked with global names like Nike, Starbucks, and Procter& and Gamble. With over 13 years in the industry, Surbhi is a leader in the field of digital marketing and brand building. Before starting her own venture, she held senior leadership roles at major advertising agencies like Genesis BCW and Socialwash, where she led teams of over 150 people. Ms. Surbhi, it's a pleasure to have you here as a guest at Sanidhya Varta.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'll clarify just one thing. Nike, Starbucks are clients that I've worked with in my previous stints. At Itch, we're working with brands like Nashamides, we're working with Iodex, we're working with Eno. So quite a few brands right now also, but those are brands that I've worked with previously and not as part of Itch at the moment.
Oh, sure. We'll correct that once we have the conversation done. Sure, ma'am.
So I think thanks for having me. It's always exciting to be here. For anybody, if you ask any of my teachers who are now till now like part of the VIPS ecosystem, they'll tell you how obsessed I was with the idea of being on radio. And back then, you thought you're learning like every course, every semester you're learning something, right? So you have events and ads and whatever. And I was so sure that I was going to be in radio. So I wish I had also started my podcast like years ago, but I think I love it when you get to kind of have these conversations and you speak about a lot of things that you're doing and things that you guys are doing and things that I'm doing. And I think it's a great ecosystem also to kind of just come together on the same platform as students who are now part of it.
Like, how would you define that entrepreneurial itch for the students of mass communication, like especially your batch, which was trained more to find job rather than doing a business? Like, and for a media student like me who has a business idea today, what is the first practical step we should take to start the journey?
I think back then all of us came with our horse blinders on, right? Like what I said earlier, you were doing with every semester, you understood some new aspect of media. We understood, and I think digital especially was something we discussed much later, and it was barely evolved as a course also back then. So we understood print, we understood radio, we understood, all of these different ecosystems. And all of us were trying to understand that, okay, if I pursue this particular domain, what will my career, what will my role look like? So I think, like, for example, Spandan is something that literally everybody waits for every year, right? So every your career is at VIPS is incomplete, your journey is incomplete till you do Spandan. So I think event was something a lot of people were excited in. They knew that, okay, if I do events, I'll go to some setup like this, and then this is what my future is going to be. So all of us, in a way, were trained to look at a certain part of media, and then you see how you want to pursue that. And all of us also saw our careers that way. So if I was going to be in TV, internship hota, then you would have done some other aspect, then eventually grow up the ladder, hopefully be a presenter one day. And that's how we looked at it, right? And it was honestly a very different time. I would say while it was still as competitive, exposure was way lesser than now. Like, I think a great thing that now we realize is that back then, being an entrepreneur and doing a startup felt brave. Today, it's like a thing everybody wants to do. Everybody is telling their kids ki jao yaar, kuch tum apna hi karo. And back then, I remember a show like Pictures had come back then, that this is something that people are doing, and it felt so brave. So I don't think any of us were ever, unless you came from a business background, you never thought about it like that. You never thought about the fact that, oh, I'm going to do media and going to build an empire out of it. I don't think that was the way it was.
Exactly.
I think exposure has helped a lot in the last many years. Another thing that's helped a lot probably is all of us came with a lot of ownership. I feel like the way we took accountability of the work we were doing at VIPS, outside of VIPS, sort of built us into individuals which, wherever we went, wherever we were working, we took ownership of a lot of the work. So I would like to say that I was very entrepreneurial in nature wherever I worked. I would take up tasks, take up new projects, just say yes to things because I wanted to explore and learn more. And I think that's the reason why it was a lot easier to also eventually take the path of starting my own business, because I was just very open to, okay, fine, we'll just dekha jayega, we'll explore and we'll see how we do it. And that's literally what entrepreneurship also is, right? It's very dekha jayega.
Yeah.
You have to do some part of it, a lot of it you kind of figure on the way. So I think being that accountability, that ownership helped a lot. And that's kind of determined how I look at everything that I do today also as part of itch.
Okay, now it makes me more curious. Like, आपने it शुरू करने से पहले, you had a proper stable job, and most people are comfortable in the stable job before starting their own business. So, like, what was a specific moment when you realized you want to build your own agency? Like, how did you transition from being an employee in the media industry to a business owner right now?
If I have to be very, very honest, I think, and this is purely my journey. Before Genesis, there was the last place I worked at. I worked at different setups. I worked at a social wash and I worked at a Foxy. Those were leaner teams, more independent setups. Those are places where when you speak up in a room, there are chances that your voice is getting heard probably more often than not, right? And also I think places that gave me a lot of opportunities. I did do everything from creative to servicing to business to numbers to literally everything I learned in these two places. I think what happened, especially when I moved to Genesis, and there also I was leading business for them, digital business for them across South and West. uh, it was still driven by people who didn't understand digital, and they made decisions, and I felt very uncomfortable that I know better than a lot of people probably. And it might sound like I think very highly of myself, but it was a reality that a lot of times I would sit in a room and I would be like, this is the wrong decision, this is not how this is supposed to be done. But I knew my voice would not get heard, and it did not get heard also. I think that discomfort was so strong uh, that I felt agitated about the role I was doing. It felt like it was totally not worth it, and I was unhappy. Now, it could be because I was in a much bigger setup where things move very differently, but I think that gave me that nudge to kind of get out of there first. The moment I decided I want to not do that, I went to all leading agencies in Delhi. I interviewed, I actually got through a couple of them also. But I felt like I'm going to do a very similar role to what I would have done had I built my own team. So I would have still figured an office space, figured like the hiring process, I would have still figured business. And I thought if I'm going to do all of this, I might as well do this on my own terms. So I feel like that time at Genesis when I felt like I I was miserable because I didn't like the process or didn't like the setup is what truly nudged me to be like, it's time to actually be your own boss. And that is really what carved it for me. It's different for different people, but I think that discomfort is always there for a lot of people. You feel not great about the place you're in, and I think that is what nudged me majorly to start Itch.
I was saying that you were honored as Superwoman in digital marketing, and even Social Samosa to recognize your influence in the marketing industry, right? So, as a successful woman in this highly competitive field, what were the most important lessons you learned about staying resilient and making your voice heard while building your own brand?
I think it starts with I don't feel so great when I'm a successful woman. I feel great when I'm successful person. I think it starts with working as an equal and demanding equal opportunities. I don't think I have ever shied away in speaking up in a room just because I'm a woman. And I don't think, and I'm honestly grateful for having opportunities where my opinion mattered as much as the other person. So I feel like um, obviously you have to have a lot of learning, you have to have a lot of meat in what you're saying, but I think very early on in my career I decided that I wanted to be successful as an individual and not a successful female leader. I'm going to be a successful leader at the end of the day. Having said that, I don't think it was easier always to be able to get through at all times. It happens even today. If I'm working with a client, there are times when there is a male client who will just not speak to me, just will not do it, and I can't help it. We try and not work with brands like that, because you have to come on board and work with us because of what we bring to the table, and not because I'm a woman versus somebody else who's a man. um, but I think it's kind of helped me a lot in honestly not shying away. I would always have my hand up if I have an opinion. I would have my hand up if I'm not happy with the process. I would have my hand up if I have an idea. I think it's a lot easier to feel ki, let me perfect it, or let me have a better answer, or log kya kahenge, let me just not say it right now. But I feel like, what's the worst that'll happen? They'll just think I'm stupid in that one moment, right? It's okay. I think speaking up was extremely crucial as part of my career, and I still make it a point uh, to share my opinions with my team, with all stakeholders, even if it's a creative team discussion and they might hate me for jumping in and saying, hey, I don't think this makes sense. I try and speak up, and I try and speak up with logic. You can 100% defend your part and tell me where you're coming from. But I think that confidence of raising your voice and speaking up in a room is very important. And I think that helped a lot. And that helped everybody a lot. We're all very talented. We're all possibly learning on the go. Maybe, the other person's learned a little bit more. But I just said yes first. I think that uh, raising your hand and speaking up is very important. That does half the job for you. The other half is where you again stay curious, you learn, you study, you grow. And that's where you kind of, your confidence and the merit you bring on the table kind of gets married together when that happens. So I think that answers your question in some
Yeah,
way.
totally. You really are a respected and an individual leader and a true leader, in my opinion, I would say. So, like, it really takes a lot of time to find out strategies, create ideas, a lot of creative brain it takes, right? So, how often do you ensure that you have to keep pushing the boundaries of creativity so that your work continues to attract and retain the high profile brands?
So, see, it happens that you have a brand that'll come and say, now I mean, I've seen it in the past, the brands would be like, the team is not excited about the work you're doing. And we can feel it in the team, and we want to change the agency for XYZ reasons. So what I think we did from the get-go is, part one, we built some processes. So even if it's about creating social media content for a brand, as a copywriter, you don't do it alone. We do this thing called writer's room, where literally everybody on the team comes together. You're a designer, you're an intern, you're an editor, whoever you are, each one of you will think of two pieces of content that you think will make sense for the brand. So that keeps it fresh, and that keeps the thinking fresh on a monthly basis. Then we do this thing again without fail. It's called Scratchpad, where we kind of come together to just jam ideas on a brand. I know it's going to be Mother's Day, for example. वो बेचारा एक copywriter अकेले सोचेगा, चार चीज scratch करेगा. We just bring people together to discuss what's a possible campaign I can do. So I think one thing we did is we built processes which are very strong, and which just brings people together very often to come and think, because that's what happens when you leave it on one person, one team. A lot of times they'll feel fatigue, and they'll feel like same cheese kitni baar kar sakte hain. That's when a lot of stakeholders bring like fresh perspective. The second thing we do also, at least when you're thinking larger ideas, larger campaigns, we try and work with a lot of data, a lot of moments, a lot of observations. So um, no campaign is planned without understanding the audience. There is a lot of research that's done to understand what's been happening as a category. And I mean, as advertisers, as marketers, we are the world around us. If there is a war happening, I'm not going to be throwing a party for my brand tomorrow. The way we conduct the brands is very different because of the surroundings that we have. So a lot of work goes into how do I make sure that I understand the audience really well. I understand what's happening and changing their lives really well. And I think that is the core of how we build ideas also. So there is, like, in our brainstorming also, we do first brainstorming is basically spitballing bullshit brainstorming. This is the time when nobody will judge you for the shittiest of ideas that you throw, but please make sure that you get them all out of your system. A lot of times these shit ideas will turn into something beautiful, they'll turn into diamonds. So a lot of times they'll just be shit that needs to be out of you. So we try and structure brainstormings are also in a way where you're free to speak, you're free to chuck, you're free to bring fresh perspective, and you slowly, as part of the process, keep fine tuning the final idea before it kind of goes to the brand team. So I think one is we have a great creative team that works really hard on the ideas we do. Two is the processes that we've kind of brought on board to make sure the creative team gets the support and are pushed very often to kind of make sure that the work always is bang on.
Oh, thank you so much. I will also keep this in mind while I am doing my own group projects. Now, how to create idea. Now brings me to the question. Like you have worked with established brand and also with startups too, right? So when you're building a strategy, how does your approach change when you are working with a big established brand versus any new disruptive startup? Like, is there any difference?
Yeah, money is the biggest difference. One has budgets, the other one doesn't. The other difference also, what's happened is that everybody's trying and solving a very different problem.
Hmm.
And I'm today, if you say Coke, Coke क्यों करना है campaign, look at an audience that's become so health conscious that now you don't want to have Coke, you want to have a Diet Coke for
Yeah.
XYZ reason. And then there are 100 people saying Diet Coke has aspartame, blah, blah, blah. This is blah, blah, blah. They have to now battle that also. So, as a brand, also, they have to constantly reinvent the wheel. And as an audience, as like a marketer, also have to constantly think, Ab, what do I do differently for the same brand? And so many times, and you'll realize this, the more and more brands that you see now in the market, especially
Hmm.
legacy brands, they're all stuck in a loop. If you read up about the battle that Quality Walls is dealing um, with respect to their ice cream. So what happened with
Yeah, yeah,
Quality
yeah.
Walls is that their portfolio is made with palm oil, the other half is made with very little section of it is made with actual milk food, right? So what
Hmm.
happens with them? You'd be like Quality Walls, hey, another year, another campaign, ice cream bechenge. But in reality, Quality Walls is saying, buddy, nobody's buying it because people are against palm oil. What do I do? So while the brands are evolving, so are their problems. You're trying to solve a very different problem every time. And the reality of both, obviously, is that these brands will always be more cautious with everything they do. Um, they'll test everything way more. There'll be more audience research. There'll be more focus groups before an idea goes live. In comparison to obviously younger brand, there's more space for hit and trial, but with limited budgets. So I think for us, we one thing we said, and I think it's a beautiful thing. My co-founder Naman also says that it's all about the budget. Now, idea kitne ka bhi ho sakta hai. And I don't think idea has to be restrained by a budget. You today tell me that there is a new product launching, which is, I don't know, makeup for men. What do I do for it? I'll give you something which makes sense for the brand. And we understand that these are brands for building. They're not going to throw money at it. So, research processes, I'll go back to it. That's still as strong. That's still something that we have to do every time.
Hmm.
But honestly, just giving it your all every time is important. Now here also processes are there. We try to understand the kind of budgets the brand is working with. So for instance, you have a brand which has like a 10 lakh budget. I'll not tell you to do a brand film, because if you have a 10 lakh budget, then you don't have the means to kind of promote that film, and you should obviously ideally promote, spend about 2 to 3x of your budget on the asset, right? So if you don't have 30 lakhs to spend on it, don't do the film. I'd rather do 10 influencers for you. So thinking creatively, sure, across the board is important, but understanding the means and how to solve a problem is also important. So there is no one size fits all solution. For some, it's going to be a different kind of asset. For some, maybe it's UGC. For some, it's maybe going to be some offline activation we do. So I think just understanding how to solve a problem is important. And then we solve it in all kinds of budgets with all kinds of brands that we work with. But the core of process and how we build ideas, that stays the same for us.
Okay, now we are talking about problem. The biggest problem right now is artificial intelligence, which is coming to my mind. With artificial
Yeah.
intelligence reshaping the total digital marketing landscape and causing concerns even about the job security, right? So how is
Yeah.
AI shifting what you look when you're hiring a new talent? Like beyond mastering these new tech tools, what is one old school communication skill and one ethical boundary that you believe that makes a student truly irreplaceable in this industry?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's happening. And this is, it's made a lot of things simpler. Like, it's made research simpler. It's made analyzing a lot of data simpler. It's made mood boarding simpler. So for us, what's happened is that a lot of our work actually now um, is getting a lot of support from AI for sure. Which means that as an individual, you can't do the bare minimum because वो AI कर देता है. Which means you have to
Hmm.
actually give a little bit more than that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But what's also happening is that there are a lot of people, we're having conversations and we do interviews, right? So before interview, usually if you're starting or you do an assignment for us, the assignments are so GPT.
Yes.
Literally, briefs being put on the assignment and exact everything that would have come from GPT has been put into sometimes the Word doc also, not even a presentation and given to us. And if I
Yeah.
ask this person to explain anything there, they'll not be able to. So I feel like what's happening is that you're not being you're being dishonest with yourself, right? If you get
Hmm.
uh, GPT to do all the answering for you, where is your brain and your thinking coming from? So I feel like as people, we were always meant to create, we were always meant to think, we were always meant to be curious. So as
Yeah.
long as you use these tools with curiosity, with your mind first, is how it will be very meaningful. Like today, you throw the same brief on GPT and be like, give me whatever, it'll give you shit. But you
Yeah.
tell GPT to understand, do a deep dive, give you research, give you documents, give you data from Statista, Factiva, and whatnot, you'll hone a lot of what you're doing. So I think using it carefully, using it mindfully is important.
Hmm.
Um, but I think a lot of students are not doing that, and I'm honestly personally worried that there'll be a time when I'll be sitting with somebody in my team who's a fresher asking a question. The person will have to ask GPT, what do I say to this woman? So I feel like we're becoming people who are not thinking at all, like zero thinking.
Exactly.
And I get presentations and I say, what is this? Like, I can't make sense of it. What does it mean? Because when
Hmm.
you put a shit prompt into, I'm sorry, I've said shit too much today, but when it's
It's
a bad
okay.
prompt you put, then you get a bad response. And when I ask people, what does it mean? There's no response because you don't
Yeah.
understand. You're not thinking, you're not analyzing. And we were
Hmm.
like, we're intelligent beings as like it's artificial intelligence. You're already intelligent. Use it wisely, use it more often because it is you who's meant to build and meant to create. So I think rightfully a lot of people are saying, and we spoke about this at RIPS also, that you have to understand that the basic tasks now can be done by anybody. You're not needed for that.
Exactly.
So you have to also step in for like two level up as a role. And only when you do that is when it'll make a difference to wherever you're joining and to whatever you're doing as an individual contributor also. So 100% your job is in like a scary situation if you don't do the work. If you do the work, you will
Hmm.
create beauty with AI.
Yeah, okay. It's actually like we have to be always curious, as you said. I actually like that phrase a lot. Okay, so
100%. My
now
team's
like
right now.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just at this. So we were just jamming internally. We were doing a lot of photo shoots here and there. So the team's done this thing where, again, using like a mix of tools, they've been able to create hyper realistic photo shoots for brands. Like you will see the model holding the product, makeup, beauty, and it looks beautiful. But that was all curiosity. Somebody in the team started trying it. got one more person to try it. Now they're all doing it together. We're selling it to
Mm.
brands, they're doing it actively. But it's purely because one person saw some reel and said, I want to try this. And then it's become like a much bigger thing the whole team is doing. So curiosity above all is one of our values also. And I feel like that is the only way we're going to thrive.
Yeah, that's how you develop yourself. Yeah. So, like, any advice, anything else you would want to say to the students of art journalism and mass communication students? We would love to hear it.
I think it's, what do you say? You say, I think I would say that don't get stuck in a structure, in a format because you've been shown that format.
Hmm.
With everything that you're learning, you're growing, you're grasping, there is just so much you can do under the sun. Um, I mean, 10 years ago, we were not discussing that tomorrow any of us were going to be building startups, and all of us are building startups. So
Yeah,
many of
exactly.
my batchmates now run beautiful production houses. There are people running beautiful businesses, right? And I don't think any of us spoke about it. Um, it obviously is an evolution that all of us have done. It's an evolution that a lot of you will have to do. I'm assuming 10 years later, we'll be having a very different conversation. And
Yeah.
um, and I think it's just a time where, especially with you guys, it's the best time because you're entering the workforce with AI. We did a lot of groundwork, a lot of work which I feel like shit. I wasted so many years of my life doing this. When I if I had AI, I would have done like so much better. I feel like don't just uh, don't just get stuck into I'm doing this as a role and this is where photo hi banana seekhunga main AI se. I will only use GPT for XYZ. I feel like explore more, see problems that you see around you every day, if see if there's a better way of solving that problem. Have a lot of fun while you're doing it. I feel like when we every time we say how to be an entrepreneur, we start thinking I'm going to build a business empire and it's going to be a company, I'll hire people and whatnot. Start thinking, what's my idea? Is there proof of concept? Will people accept it? How is it looking? I think do a lot of hard work. Don't get too attached to it. Show your work to
Hmm.
the people, understand if it's actually making sense, and then very very thoroughly build it from there. But before you get too attached to it, please open it up to people to also understand if it actually makes sense or not. And then there's just so much that you have as support system around you. You have the whole Vips ecosystem also. People will come together to kind of guide you along the way. But keep working hard, and keep working smart. That's the only way this is going to work.
Thank you, ma'am. I really think that whatever efforts and hard work you did brought you here today. And really thank you for being so candid. Yeah, moreover, I actually just wanted to conclude. I actually wanted to say like thank you for being so candid and sharing these practical insights with us today. It is actually really inspiring to see how, as a media student, you navigated the path and then became a business leader. And I think for our listeners also, the takeaway is clear. Like, innovation is not just about following the latest trend, and it is about having the vision to see where the industry is going before everyone else does. So, like, I would say that you have been listening to Sanidhya Varta by Webs Rhythm. I'm your host, Richa Singh, and we will be back again soon with more such conversations as we continue this special series featuring our incredible alumni.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.